President of the United States on my first try. I think that would qualify not smart, but genius. And a very stable genius at that.
That Donald Trump tweet, read in the voice of Thanos by Josh Brolin, is indicative of a screenwriting problem that too many films fail to solve. Writing a villain is exceptionally easy. You take an individual, entity, organism, and have them do something near objectively wrong, and boom, villain. The motivated, stable genius. Unfortunately, it's far more difficult to write a good villain, especially when you're given 120 pages, 2 hours to accomplish that task, or in the case of Infinity War, 2.5 hours. During those 2.5 hours, Thanos gets more screen time than any other character, topping out at 29 minutes. The Russo brothers, the directorial duo behind Infinity War, wanted to make a movie from the villain's perspective. They wanted to tell Thanos' story, but in those 29 minutes, the Russos allowed Thanos to falter as an antagonist, because they failed to convey to the audience the most important element of an antagonist's psyche. Not just his motivation, but the why. It's a problem of relatability and understanding. It's no big secret that Marvel has a villain problem. From running the Accuser's bland one-note caricature of a villain to the abomination that was Mickey Rourke's Whiplash, Marvel has shown an inconsistency when it comes to engaging the moviegoer in anything other than their hero. Thanos has expository scene after expository scene in which he breaks down as ineloquently as possible what his plan is and how he got started down this path, but despite Thanos being quite a good villain, you never understand why. Thanos is a big believer in population control, an idea that took root in 1798 when Thomas Malthus completed and sent out to the world an essay on the principle of population. It was a paper written in an effort to secure the future of our species. Malthus believed that mankind was headed down a dark path. He believed, in his words, that the power of population is so superior to the power of Earth to produce subsistence for man that premature death must in some shape or other visit the human race. And that is Thanos' plan. He is the premature death, going planet to planet, wiping out half the populace, and eventually pursuing the Infinity Stones to accomplish the feat of wiping out half the universe instantaneously. But why? Sure, we know he went to the leaders of Titan with the genocide idea and was shot down, leading to that planet's demise. And that began his crusade, and we know it apparently worked on Gamora's planet. But these are far from explanations. What lessens the impact of an antagonist is a detachment from logic and reason. The best villains, with a few exceptions, are characters that you understand, that logically resonate with you, the viewer. Hela of Thor Ragnarok, despite her flaws and that film's flaws, is understandable. She was raised to kill, raised in death, and then spurned by her father and cast away when that death was no longer ideal, giving her place on a throne and a kingdom to her more palatable brothers. Everyone has family drama, everyone suffers from jealousy, everyone can understand daddy issues. You can connect with Hela, you understand her, and in turn invest in her because you can sympathize. Thanos' motivations in the source material in the comics are much more understandable. He's in love with a physical manifestation of death. He thinks that if he were to wipe out half the universe to achieve death on an unprecedented scale, she may love him. He's quite literally courting death. That's an understandable motive. The why, to why we do so many things, is love, and the burn of unrequited love can get us to do just about anything. But Thanos in Infinity War is simply obsessed with balance. Balance he believes can only be achieved through his methods. But we can't buy into his plan or even fathom what's behind it, mostly because of how ill thought out it is. The Russo brothers said the reason that Thanos knows about Tony is because Thanos is a futurist, but his plan is incredibly short-sighted. A genocide of that kind would be a short-term band-aid solution to a problem that will only repeat itself. People will continue to populate, and with a new abundance of food, history tells us they'll actually begin to populate even faster, continuing the trend of overpopulation for as long as their planet lasts. Thanos would have to repeat that genocide over and over and over again for eternity to solve any sort of issue. It would only prolong the inevitability of these planets' resources dying. Worse yet, the results of the genocide, as we see in the post-credits scene, are potentially just as bad in the short term. Millions will die immediately in accidents caused by the direct aftermath across the universe. Millions more will die in wars as new power struggles break out and governments restructure, and if the culling is random, some places will be left without enough specifically skilled labor to get food on the tables. Thanos' plan is short-sighted, especially when the film cuts to black and you see he's ready to rest. He's apparently done. It's far from foolproof, and yet as big of a risk as it is, the only explanation we're given is this is just what he landed on. We don't know if any other planet has found an already better and more sustainable solution, neither does Thanos, before he began his pledge, he didn't have any stones, he couldn't have. We don't know why Thanos believes this is the best plan, or why he hasn't proposed any other solution. We don't know why he came to this conclusion, a conclusion that, again, is wholly unrelatable. At some point, Thanos probably became obsessed with his own ideals. His obsession became his motivation. He sees it through because at this point, accepting he may be wrong, veering from the course, a course he believes is his destiny, a course he believes makes him the hero, would be unimaginable to the Mad Titan. Understanding the why of your antagonist, even in a film of this nature, is a villain's greatest hook. It's what makes moments like these impactful. Creating a powerful villain is about more than making him strong, and yes, Infinity War does do a great job of making Thanos menacing. The opening scene with Hulk is designed to show the viewer just how strong Thanos is, even without the gauntlet, which he never uses throughout the fight. No, instead it's about motivating a character, something you instinctively do with your protagonist. If Infinity War is, as the Russos put it, Thanos' story, then there's no way around the fact that we should have a better understanding of why he chose this path of most resistance. The reality behind why we're after it is the character, is what defines that character. Frodo's journey to destroy the ring comes to define him, Harry's quest to kill Voldemort, Doc and Marty's journey to find and involve Marty's parents. The why of these journeys is what gives these characters their arcs, their growth. So why does this matter in the case of Infinity War? Because suddenly, when you put it into that context, Thanos is hard to take seriously. He becomes just a giant purple mustache-twirling villain lacking nuance. The 19 minutes of screen time Gamora gets in an attempt to give him a dose of cognitive dissonance or humanize Thanos goes out the window when his plan is so confusingly inhuman. He becomes a character that has nothing more than a dumb plan and next to no real reason for it. All the menace the film imbues him with slowly goes out the window, and you, the viewer, become more confused by him than anything else. It weakens him as an antagonist. Part of this is due to the film engaging in its own version of something Izzy Black coined as cinema of excess. It was a term used by her to describe a new genre of film that engages in and encourages gluttony and greed. It certainly wasn't meant to apply to comic book films. Here, the gluttony is characters and moments. It overwhelms us with 28 different heroes. It's a very good film that's fractured out of the gate due to the kind of awesome filmic greed that the Russos and Marvel engage in. The desire to shove everyone into 2 hours. It leaves little time for fleshing out, well, anyone, really. For everything a screenwriter gets right with its antagonist, I think that the most important facet of character is motivation. I think that without a clear understanding of why, we lose sight of why we should care. We need to understand why, to fully give ourselves up to what's in front of us. Which is a shame for Infinity War because other than that, Thanos is great in terms of sheer might. He's unrivaled in that universe's canon. But I think if we know anything at this point as a collective group of smart people, it's that being the biggest, being the loudest doesn't always make you right. If you're gonna create a monster of self-described genius, you better make sure he knows not only what he's doing, but why he's doing it.
States on my first try. I think that would qualify not smart, but genius. And a very stable genius at that.
That's very Thanos.